Imagine you max out every credit card you own. Your balance is so big you stop counting zeros. Then the bank calls and offers you a bigger limit. That sounds insane. For you, that would be the end. For governments, that's Tuesday. Right now, some of the most powerful countries on Earth owe more money than they've ever owed in human history. Trillions, tens of trillions, numbers so large they barely feel real. And yet, investors keep lending to them. Markets stay open, auctions fill, interest payments get made. Life goes on. So the uncomfortable question is not, why is there so much debt? The real question is, why hasn't the system broken yet? And why does it keep letting governments borrow more? This matters right now because global debt is no longer a background statistic. It's shaping inflation, taxes, housing, pensions, wars, elections, and your savings. Quietly, relentlessly. To understand it, we need to forget everything that personal finance taught us, because governments do not play by household rules. They never have. Let's start with a simple truth most people miss. Government debt is not like your debt. When you borrow money, you need income to pay it back. A salary, a business, something real and finite. Governments don't rely on income the same way. They rely on power. The power to tax, the power to print, the power to define the unit of money itself. That changes everything. When a government borrows, it doesn't borrow from a bank that can say no forever. It borrows from a market that needs somewhere to park money, safely, at scale. And that's the first hidden mechanism. Debt exists because someone else wants an asset. When pension funds, insurance companies, banks, and foreign governments have massive piles of money, they need something boring, liquid, and predictable, something they can buy in enormous quantities without moving the price too much. That something is government bonds, not because governments are good with money, but because they are hard to replace. There are not many assets on Earth that are large enough, liquid enough, and legally safe enough to absorb trillions of dollars without breaking. Apple stock isn't. Real estate isn't. Gold isn't. Crypto definitely isn't. Government debt is. So paradoxically, the more money sloshing around the global system, the more demand there is for government debt. That's why borrowing doesn't stop when debt gets big. It often accelerates. Now, let's talk about the part that feels like a magic trick. Governments rarely pay back debt the way you imagine. They roll it. When a bond matures, the government usually doesn't dig into a vault and hand back cash earned from past savings. It issues new debt to pay off the old debt. Old IOU replaced with a new IOU. This can continue indefinitely as long as two conditions hold. First, investors believe they'll get paid. Second, the economy doesn't collapse faster than the debt grows. That's it. There is no moral checkpoint, no cosmic debt ceiling, just confidence and math. And this is where things get uncomfortable, because the math doesn't require debt to ever go down. It only requires the debt to grow slower than the country's ability to service it. That ability comes from taxes, inflation, and growth. Taxes are obvious. Governments take a slice of economic activity.
Growth matters because a larger economy makes the same debt feel smaller. $1 trillion owed by a tiny economy is catastrophic. $1 trillion owed by a massive economy is Tuesday again. And inflation. Inflation is the quiet accomplice. Inflation reduces the real value of debt. If you borrowed money yesterday and repay it with cheaper money tomorrow, you've effectively paid less. From the borrower's perspective, inflation is a feature, not a bug. This is why governments fear deflation far more than inflation. Deflation makes debt heavier. Inflation makes debt lighter. Now, at central banks. This is where the story stops being intuitive. Central banks are not just referees, they are players. They can create money and use it to buy government debt. Not directly in many cases, but close enough to matter. When markets panic, central banks step in and say, "We will buy." That backstop changes behavior.
That backstop changes behavior. Investors know that in extreme situations, the buyer of last resort exists. That knowledge alone lowers borrowing costs. It stabilizes auctions. It calms markets. It's not a free lunch, but it delays the bill. Here's the irony. Governments are trusted not because they are disciplined, but because they are systemically unavoidable. If a major government defaults, the damage doesn't stay local. Banks suffer, pensions wobble, trade freezes, markets everywhere shake. So investors keep lending because not lending could be worse. This is not faith, it's risk management.
Now, let's confront the question everyone asks. Can this go on forever? The honest answer is uncomfortable. Yes, until it can't. There is no fixed limit where debt suddenly becomes impossible. History doesn't give us a clean number. Some countries collapse at 60% debt to GDP. Others survive at 250%.
The breaking point is psychological before it is mathematical. It happens when confidence cracks. When investors stop asking, "Will I get paid?" and start asking, "Who's left holding this?" Interest rates spike, debt servicing costs explode, governments are forced to cut, print, or default. And here's the twist. High debt is survivable. High interest on high debt is deadly.
For years, ultra-low interest rates made massive borrowing feel painless. Payments stayed manageable, warnings were ignored. But rates don't stay low forever. When inflation rises, central banks tighten, borrowing gets expensive, old debt rolls into new debt at higher rates. Suddenly, the math changes fast. This is why debt discussions have shifted from abstract to urgent.
Not because the debt exists, but because the price of carrying it is rising. Now zoom out. This system shapes global power. Countries that borrow in their own currency have more room to maneuver. Countries that borrow in foreign currency are fragile. One controls the printer, the other doesn't. That's why some governments can run deficits for decades, while others implode quickly. Debt is not just an economic tool, it's a geopolitical one, and it creates quiet winners and losers.
Asset owners benefit when inflation erodes debt. Savers lose purchasing power. Younger generations inherit obligations they didn't vote for. Older ones cash checks promised long ago. No explosion, no headline collapse, just slow pressure. So why can governments owe trillions and still borrow more? Because the system isn't built on repayment in the way we think. It's built on confidence, power, inflation, and rollover. It works until belief shifts, and that belief can shift suddenly.
Not when the debt number gets scary, but when the story around it changes. The unsettling part is this. You don't get a warning bell. Debt crises don't announce themselves. They look manageable right up until they're not. So the real question isn't how much governments owe. It's how long the world keeps agreeing that this arrangement makes sense. And when that agreement ends, who pays the price first?